All right, folks, we're going to get started. Real quick, I just want to thank everybody who's still here anyway for kind of hanging in there with us. I know it's been a long day. These things tend to be a long day, but I think a lot of our experiences when you kind of hang in and just stay here with us, it's you really feel it at the end, even though it doesn't feel so good right now. We want to thank all the speakers so far for just letting God do what He do. And with that, we're just going to take a quick moment of silence, and we're going to follow that up for this one with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. All right, and with that, I've asked a friend to come up and read a little something before we start our talk on steps 8 and 9.
Caroline, I'm an alcoholic. Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of all persons we had harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. We subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which is accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember, it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol.
Thanks, Carolyn. All right, and our speaker on step 9, or 8 and 9, is a really good friend of ours, Kathy P. from Bella, Maryland.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy. I'm an alcoholic. So I'll qualify myself. My sobriety date is June 15th, 2001. I have a home group. I have a sponsor. I sponsor other alcoholics in this program, and I'm sober today only because of God's grace and because of the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Teddy, for inviting me and everyone who was connected with today. What a great day, right? So many friends. I've met lots of new people, and I've seen people that I haven't seen for years, and it's just been a wonderful day of recovery. But I'm a little bit panic-stricken, and I just chugged a cup of coffee, so I don't know what's about to fall out of my mouth. So lower your expectations, because I don't know. I'm wicked happy that you asked me to speak about 8 and 9, because they're my favorite, and I just heard myself. That made me gag a little. I hate people that are that enthusiastic, but I really am. I love 8 and 9. And I think the reason that I love 8 and 9 so much is because this is where the program came alive for me. It really started getting real at 8 and 9. The first 8 steps were really just like looking at the wreckage of the past. The 9th step, we actually get to go back and do something about it and fix it. And yeah, this is where everything changed for me. The speakers today have been wonderful. Everyone that came before me, and I'm sitting in my chair thinking how inadequate I am. And, the truth is none of us really know anything. We don't have the answers, I don't know how this thing works. I still don't. I just know that it does work, and that's all I need to know. I need to know that it works. And all I can do is share my experience with these steps with you. Getting a little ahead of myself, though. So I'm falling down, ugly, nasty, messy, drunk. That's just who I am. Jimmy was talking about Johnny Walker. Yeah, had a long affair with that man. I like all the brown stuff. Whiskey and bourbon and rye, and I like that gasoline kind of burning thing. But the problem is that when you drink like I like to drink, you pass out. You black out and then you pass out. And then I live in fear that I'm missing something. I'm missing part of the fun. So I found all that other wonderful stuff that you shove up your nose that keeps you awake, and then you can drink the way you want to drink. And I just made a mess of everybody's life. I made a mess of my own life. I destroyed relationships in my life. I broke people's trust. I'm a short little troll. I destroyed other people's lives as well, and ruined relationships in other people's lives. And because I'm the kind of person that I ingratiate myself to you so that you'll like me, and then I take advantage of your kindness, and I suck the life out of you and everyone around you, and then I move on to my next victim, my next hostage, and blame you for the fact that our relationship fell apart. Because I'm a colossal victim, very fluent in victimese. You guys are the reason that everything is wrong in my life, and I never look at me, I destroyed so many people's lives, but the people that I think were the worst amends, the biggest, most important amends I had to make were to my children. As a mother, we're supposed to be nothing but love and support. We're supposed to be our children's rock, their backbone. Children are a gift, and I did not appreciate that gift. I was a horrible mother, and my children were afraid of me. How many times do you go to a meeting and you hear one of us up here at the podium and talking about, the abusive alcoholic mother that terrified them? That would be me. So if you're that kid, you're about to hear the other side of the story. I was horrible to those children. I came to AA by an invitation of the state. Some of us do that, I'm nervous and I'm scratching, and when I get nervous, I break out in hives. So I'm sorry. I don't have anything infectious. You don't have to worry. I was invited by this lovely judge, but the truth of the matter is I was already involved in AA. I came here right away after my arrest, not really sure that I was an alcoholic and not really sure that I wanted to get sober, but it's going to look good in front of the judge, right? Get those slips signed. I had a little notebook, had everybody signing it. The truth of the matter is I wasn't sure that I belonged here. I wasn't sure that I was an alcoholic. Don't know why I didn't see the unmanageability in my life. But I really wasn't sure I belonged. But I knew I wanted to stop hurting. I just couldn't take the pain anymore. The unmanageability. Claire did a really good job talking about that this morning. I told you I like stuffing things up my nose. And I would be pacing the kitchen floor at 3:30 in the morning, licking my license, trying to find a drug dealer that's still awake, and didn't see the unmanageability in it. The drug dealers aren't even awake at that hour. I was a mess. But I came here, and you guys tell me right off the bat, because what do we do when we get here? We start asking questions. So how do you stay sober? And then there's always that old timer that says, one day at a time, But people tell me, you've got to have a relationship with a higher power. You have to have a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening. You need a higher power in your life. You need to start living your life according to spiritual principles. And you have to clean house, right? That's what they tell us. Clean house, trust God, help others. And I'm like, back it up a minute there. What's that clean house thing? Yeah. Tell me about that. Explain that. And I'm told that we have to make this list, and I'm reading the steps, right? And make a list of all the people we harmed, and then we have to become willing to make amends to them all. Are you telling me that I have to say I'm sorry? Because I do not say I'm sorry. I do not apologize. And then they said, we don't ever say I'm sorry. Those are 2 words we never say. And that was the hook. I was like, okay, cool. I don't have to apologize, right? They didn't tell me what they meant was that we never say those words because people have been hearing it, our whole lives. We have other ways of making things right. Nobody told me that, though. So I dive into these steps. And by this point, by the time we're at 8 and 9, right, we've accepted that our lives are unmanageable. We've accepted that we're powerless over alcohol and drugs and everything else that we use to fill the hole in our soul. We've tried to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. We're trying to do that on a daily basis. We're trying to live within spiritual principles. We've done our inventory. We've looked at all the trash. I don't know about you. There is, please don't get me wrong. The 5th step is amazing. It really is a wonderful step. Doing our inventory, looking at it on paper and seeing who we really are in black and white. And you can't argue with it because you wrote it, But I'm Catholic. I'm used to confession. It really didn't, there was nothing earth-shattering with my 5th step, is what I'm trying to say. I was hearing a lot of people talking about doing their 5th step and the weight of the world coming off their shoulders and everything changing and the whole world was different. And I didn't have that experience. I know a lot of people do. I hear a lot of people talking about that. That was not my experience. I'm not saying it was a bad experience. It was great. It was really eye-opening seeing me on paper, seeing all the harm that I had done. And sponsors do that little flip thing, and they show you how you're, responsible for whatever happened. Didn't care for that at all. Thought I was going to write a term paper and then read it to my sponsor, and she was going to say, oh, you poor thing, no wonder you drink. Didn't go that way. But I didn't feel like worlds better when I was done with my 5th. And we did 6 and 7, and we looked at my character defects, and I didn't agree with that either because I didn't think I had any. But then we make a list, and we're talking about step 8, and she tells me, you've got to go do step 8. And I'm like, okay, make a list of all the people I harmed, no problem. Got that for my 5th step, wrote everything down, got all the names, right? There are other women, I gotta interject this. There were other women that I got sober with around the same time, and they had different sponsors, but we were all kind of like the same graduating class, And so I'm comparing the shit out of everything that they're doing to how I'm doing, because I want to make sure that my sponsor measures up. And so this one girl tells me one day, we're having coffee, and she's like, yeah, I did my 8th step. I did all 3 lists. 3? Explain that. And she said, well, I have 3 lists. There's the amends that I'm going to make promptly. And then there's the amends that, maybe one day. And then there's the when pigs fly list. And I said, what's that? And she said, well, I'll make amends when pigs fly. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. So I don't have to go back and apologize to everyone. I love this. And I went back and I told my sponsor, and I'm like, I rewrote my list. I broke it down into 3 lists. Look. And she's like, please show me in the big book where it says there are 3 lists. We do things out of the book. And she said, I don't know what that other woman is talking about. I don't judge other people's programs. You do it this way. So I'm like, oh, crap. I got to make amends to everyone then, right? And she's like, yeah, you do. But So I had my list, and I thought that was step 8. And I'm like, okay, let's do step 9. Who do I start with first? I want to take the easy ones first. We'll start, And she said, no, you're not ready. And I'm like, she's already on step 10. I want to keep moving. And she's like, no, you're not ready. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not ready? She said, step 8 is not only about taking a list. She said it also says that we become willing to make amends to them all. And there are a lot of people on here that I know you're not willing to make those amends to. And that tells me that you haven't forgiven them yet. Because all of these people that were on my list that I had resentments against, had wronged me in some way. I'm still not looking at the fact that it's all my fault, but or how I took part in it. But yeah, I still had resentments against people, and I was just going to call them up and say, yeah, okay, I'm in a 12-step program. I need to do this. Sorry. And she's like, mm-mm. If you haven't forgiven these people in your heart, then your amends is going to fall on deaf ears because they're going to feel that. They're going to know that there's no sincerity behind your amends. Mm-hmm. And she said, you have to find forgiveness. And I hang on to resentments and grudges like nobody's business. I got this friend, Timmy, up in Boston. He's one of us, and he's Irish like me. And he's like, babe, we got the Irish curse. And I'm like, the Irish curse? Yep, we hang on to grudges. He said, we hang on to them for decades. You will hang on to them for life, and that's why you drink, to quiet the noise of those resentments. And that's exactly what I do. He's like, yep, it's the Irish curse. Because I take care of my resentments. They live in my head, and I replay them, and I feed them, and I nurture them like they're my children, And it's like, I just reminded myself of that story. That Native American story about the two wolves? You've heard, yeah, I see nodding heads, right? The bad wolf and the good wolf, and they're always at battle, and they both live within us, and which one wins? The one you feed, right? So that's what I do. I have all these resentments within me, and I take care of them, and I hang on to those grudges, and I'm not letting go. And I got sober with a bunch of old men, and God bless those old timers. I love those guys because they told me the truth. I needed to hear the truth. I needed people to tell me who I really was, and these guys cared about me enough to hurt my feelings, to let me know the things that I needed to know and not, the things that I wanted to know. And one of them sat me down and we were talking because I was pissed. I'm not jumping ahead to the rest of my steps. I should be done by now. That girl's done, And so this guy says to me, let's think about what you're doing with this process with 8 and 9. You're going to make amends to these people. You're trying to make things right. You want to be accountable for your own behavior. You're expecting them to forgive you. And I'm like, absolutely. Because I'm human and I'm mortal and I'm flawed and I'm broken. And I mess up. And yes, I hope they understand that and they're going to forgive me. And he said, but you're not willing to forgive them? So yeah, if I'm going to ask people to forgive me, my God, I have to forgive them first. There's no room anywhere that I cannot not forgive these people. And how do you do that? You ask for the willingness. The 8th step is all about willingness, being willing to make the amends, being willing to forgive them, asking God for the willingness to try and forgive them. When I realized that most of the people that I was upset with were every bit as broken and mortal and human and flawed as I am, it was a whole lot easier to give that up. There is a beautiful freedom in forgiveness, in letting go of that anger and that rage, and it's not my responsibility anymore. I don't have to worry about hanging on to grudges. I can just give it to God and let Him take care of it. I don't know what you believe in, what concept, if it's God, if it's karma, or, whatever you put out in the world comes back to you, If I'm continually putting out anger and rage and hanging on to grudges and I'm resentful, that's what I'm going to get back, I have to treat other people the way I want to be treated, and that's kindness and patience and love and tolerance and forgiveness. And I know that God's got us all. We're all God's kids, right? So I was able to actually get to a place where I had forgiven them. and start working on my step 9. And again, I want to forge through. I want to check off all the easy ones, get rid of them real quick, and then take care of the hard ones. And I want to clean this up, right? Get it done fast. And sponsors have the weirdest rules. And they're like, she's going, no, we're just going to talk about the first 3 people on the list. And then we're going to talk about how you're going to make these amends, because each amends is as different as the individual person. And we're not going to go through the whole list because you're going to forget. So we're just going to do 3, and then you're going to go make those 3 amends. And when you're done and ready to start 4, you call me again, and we'll talk about it again. And I'm like, geez, this is juvenile. I can't believe she's making me do this. But, take suggestions, right? So in the beginning, I did a couple of the easy ones. And they were, family members and people that were just like, oh, we're just happy that you're sober. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, that was easy, free pass, right? And she's, oh no, that is not a free pass. You asked them, how do you make this right in their eyes? And they said, keep doing what you're doing. You just made a commitment to keep doing what you've been doing up until now to stay sober for the rest of your life. You just committed to that. That means going to meetings, sponsoring other people, calling your sponsor, continually taking your own inventory and making amends when necessary. And she said, you just committed to do everything you've been doing up till now. And I wasn't particularly happy with that, but that's what she said. She was also very explicit about not going into my amends process with any expectation. She said, you cannot expect anything from anyone. And she said, don't, let it go to your head. You've made some really easy amends, and these people have been gracious, and just keep doing what you're doing kind of thing. But they're not all going to go like this. And she warned me about it, and I so didn't listen. So there was this woman that I had been particularly vicious with. She had been my best friend for years. We met in middle school, and we were friends all through high school and after high school. And she was engaged, and I'm a bridesmaid in her wedding. And I slept with her fiance. We just got drunk, and it was just one of those things. And he told her. Why? I had no idea. But he told her he wanted to start his marriage, honest and clean. And so I was not in the wedding. But she never, she never spoke to me again. And that was a beautiful friendship. And that woman loved me unconditionally. And she always had my back. And when he told her, that we had slept together, and she called me to call me out on it, you know what I said to her? Well, if you were keeping him happy, he wouldn't have come sniffing around me. How arrogant can you be, right? I just ripped my best friend's heart out and did a tap dance on it, and didn't even faze me. So now I've got to call her. And I'm talking to my sponsor, and I'm like, do I call her? I don't know if I want to call her, And she said, how free do you want to be? I reached out to her, and through Facebook, thank God for. I hadn't spoken to her in 20 years, but I reached out to her. I ammed her on Facebook and told her I was going to be up in Boston visiting family, and do you, have some time? And I explained in my message that I was sober and I was in a 12-step program, and that this was part of the process and the amends process. And if she was open to it, I would love to get together with her and just sit down and talk. And she said she was open, so I was thrilled. I thought, oh, this is awesome. She's going to forgive me. We're going to be friends again. Everything's going to go back to the way it was, Delusional. But I said what we said, or said what we say, And I told her that that was a woman that I don't recognize anymore, that I'm not that woman anymore. And don't ever want to be like that again. And that's why I'm going through this process I want to change, I want to grow, and I'm trying to set things right. And I asked her how I could make this right in her eyes. And she smiled and said, I'm so happy that you're finally getting your act together, and I'm so happy that you're doing this and you're sober, but the way you make it right is by keeping your life out of mine. Yeah, stabbed me in the heart, and I was broken. And this was the first time that I'd had a negative, result with an amends. So I called my sponsor, of course, boo-hooing, because I'm a big old victim. And she said, just because your heart has healed doesn't mean that hers has. And we don't have the right to have an expectation of these people that we've harmed. So she said, this is where we fall back on our faith and we trust God. You did the right thing. You tried to keep your side of the street clean. That's good. Now you can sleep at night knowing that you tried to do the right thing. But now we're going to leave the ball in God's court. And when her heart has healed and when the time is right, He'll have your paths cross, and He'll let you know that everything's okay. It was another 10 years before I spoke to her again. My father had died, and she loved my dad. And she showed up at the funeral. And she just came to pay her condolences and didn't want anything else. And I didn't want to press, so I just didn't say anything. But it was a couple months later, she hit me up and said, if you're in Boston visiting family, I'd love to see you. And we've slowly been working on our relationship, over the past 10 years. I don't see her that often or talk to her that often, but we do communicate and we are a part of each other's lives. And I know that I'm never going to get that relationship back that we had. But we've got a new one, and I kind of like this one better because I can be me and I can let her see all my ugly warts and all, and she knows who I am now. And I love that. I love that God let that happen. Took a lot of time, though, so we can't rush into things and have expectations, I had another strange experience with my high school sweetheart. We dated for 2.5 years in high school, when everybody has a different boyfriend, like every week, right? 2.5 years. That was like being engaged. Everyone thought we were going to get married. We thought we were going to get married, And he was one of the first people that ever called me out on my drinking. He said to me one night, there are two kinds of people in this world. There are the people that can hold their liquor, and there are other people that just shouldn't drink. And I think that you just shouldn't drink. And so he had to go. No man's going to tell me what to do, right? So, yeah, I dumped him, and I devastated him. I destroyed this man. He loved me, and he thought we were going to grow old together, and I hurt him terribly. So I ended up I had made all my amends by this point. He was the only one I hadn't made. And I was at a meeting, and it was a step meeting, and they were talking about amends, and we were kind of doing a round robin, and I was saying that this was the only amends I hadn't made. And after the meeting, one of those old guys, the old timers, comes up to me and he says, high school sweetheart, huh? High school, they have reunions, don't they? So, yeah, my 20th anniversary, I knew what I was going to be doing at that reunion. And he was there with his wife, and I know her. She went to high school with us. And so I asked her permission to talk to her husband privately. And she was like, yeah, fine, But I tried to make amends to him, and I said, I know that I broke your heart. I know I was horrible to you, I just blew you off. And he was completely befuddled. You never did anything to hurt me. I thought we just kind of like grew away from each other. Wasn't fazed in the least bit. It was just, I created the whole drama in my head, So that was fun. That was humiliating. But, God does that. He humbles me, and I deserve it. I've had a wonderful experience with the amends process. I told you about those children that I was horrible to. And how do you make amends to your kids? And when I first got sober, they were little. They were like 6 and 7. And so they got to be like 9, 10. And my sponsor was like, it's time. They're old enough to understand. You need to make amends. And I did. And they were so loving and forgiving because they had seen the person that I was turning into in AA. And they liked this mom so much better than the one that had raised them before. And so they just like threw their arms around me and they were so happy, like, Mom, we're just happy you're happy. And I rebuilt that relationship and I rebuilt that trust. We do that, we rebuild everything, and it's just so beautiful when it happens. But years start going by, and I passed my 10th anniversary and now I'm in double digits. And I'm like this kick-ass woman in AA. And I think I was trying to be the president of AA, I'm going to be the queen. And I was sponsoring, I don't know how many people I was sponsoring, but it was just way too many people. I was sponsoring women up and down the East Coast. I was speaking all over the country and started getting to a place where I forgot that God is the one that heals our hearts, that God is the one that fixes what's broken in us. And I started thinking that I was instrumental in that process. And if I don't show up to speak at a meeting, AA gonna cave, And that colossal ego, it comes back, and with it comes the noise. And, Claire stabbed me in the heart this morning. I've known that woman for 15 years. We've been friends, and I never heard anybody explain it this way, but she was talking about hiding behind our time. Because the noise starts creeping back in and we start feeling inferior again and all the character defects, and we know that we're breaking. And we hide behind our time and we don't tell anyone. Because, I'm in double digits now. I'm 10, 11 years sober. I can't go to people and say, something's not right. I don't feel okay, So what do? Keep busy. Keep busy, right? Go to more meetings, sponsor more people, speak at more meetings. I was everywhere, all over the place, and dying inside, and just didn't see it. I couldn't tell anyone. But what was happening that I wasn't aware of, or just wasn't conscious enough to see was happening? Those children that I built up that relationship with, that I got back, that trusted me again, that loved me. They're teenagers now, and I'm not spending any time with them because I'm running off to AA every minute, I can't cook them dinner. I go to the McDonald's drive-thru and throw bags at them, and they're like, Ma, we already ate, They're young adults, and I'm negligent of them again, and I'm not spending any time with them, and I can't be bothered because I got to save everybody in AA. But the truth is that if I slowed down enough to really look at what was happening, the noise in my head was deafening again, and I wouldn't be able to sleep, and I was a minute away from a drink. And what ended up happening was those teenage children decided that they didn't want me in their life anymore, and they moved back in with their dad, and they didn't talk to me for 4 years. 4 years. Years. My children didn't speak to me. If there's anybody in this room who's not speaking to their parents right now, stop it. I don't care how horrible they are or what they did to you. They're not going to be around forever. Fix it. I tried to reach out to them, and they'd heard it all before. And when your kids get to a certain age and they don't want to talk to you, you can't make them. There was nothing I could do. but I was dying inside. And I hadn't done anything that warranted picking up a 24-hour chip, but I felt like I should have because I died spiritually. I was just lost. I was a lost soul. And someone in a meeting, I was falling apart and just verbally vomited all over this woman. And she said, "You need to start over. You need a new experience in AA. You can't relive the one you had. Have a new one." And I got a new sponsor, and I started the steps over from scratch, like I was a newcomer because I was. And I found my God again, and started working on that relationship because that's the one that's the most important. You know, we we spend what, 80 years on this planet, right? In this life, people come and go. We die. We're going to be spending eternity with God, with our higher power. Eternity. That's a little bit of time there. That's the relationship you want to work on, right? That's the most important. And my sponsor said, you don't know God anymore. You need to build that relationship. And I forgot how, because I had walked away from him, and he was not the one that walked away. I was. And my sponsor's brilliant. God, I love that woman. She said, "Do you remember they had that book for kids? It was a little magazine, and it was called Where's Waldo?" And she said, "I want you to play Where's Waldo with God. And I want you to watch for him all throughout your day. And when you see signs of God working in your life or somebody else's, when you see God anywhere, you shoot me a text and say, 'Waldo sighting.' And we'll talk we'll talk about it when you call me tonight." And again, I thought it was juvenile and ridiculous. But the craziest thing started happening when I started looking for God. I started seeing him everywhere. And if I see a really smoking hot guy in a meeting and I want to get to know that guy, how do I let him know that I want him in my life? I have to seek him out, right? I have to tell him, I want to get to know you. Well, why don't we do that with God? And she was like, date God for a while, So I built that relationship back up with God. And still, I'm making myself crazy because my kids still aren't speaking to me. And she said, "You don't deserve to be in their life right now." She said, "Let's get you human again, and then you can be part of their lives." And she said, "I want you writing them letters, I want you sending them cards, and I want you to put money in those cards, not because it's their birthday or a holiday, just because you love them." And I didn't get any responses. And because I want immediate gratification, I want it now. I'm making an effort. Why aren't you speaking to me? And she said, "You're having expectations again. You can't expect that their hearts have healed. You hurt them." So she pointed out all the young people in the meetings, and she said, "God's let you help a whole lot of his kids." She said, "Go help the people around you and just keep doing what you need to do." And so I did. I stopped taking commitments to speak. I changed my phone number so it would stop ringing. And I went to meetings where I didn't know anybody. And I just became anonymous in AA. And what a beautiful experience. I started making friends. I didn't want to sponsor people. I would just walk up to women at meetings. The newcomers that pace around the back of the room and they pretend they're texting and there's no one there. I would just walk up and, "Hey, can I have your number? I know you got a sponsor, but I can always use another friend." And I made a lot of friends and I've made a lot of connections and the most important being that one with God. My son got married during that time and I was not invited to the wedding. And that hurt for a long time, but I don't have any regrets about that because I didn't deserve to be there. I wasn't a mother to him. But the most beautiful thing happened. This was after 4 years of no communication. Out of the blue, I get a text message. "What is it with you young people and the texting? You can't pick up the phone?" I get this text message out of the blue that said, "Hey, I'd love to have coffee if you're free on Sunday," from my son. And just about had a stroke, and I had to call my sponsor because I was so sure I was going to screw it up. And she said, this is not an amends. He's reaching out to you. You keep your mouth shut and you listen. Okay, I can do that. And I sat there with my son and his wife, and they told me that they were expecting their first child, and they wanted me to be a part of that child's life. And he said, but I have one thing I have to insist on, Mom. And I'm like, anything, ask. And he said, I want you to treat our child the way you treat those people in AA. And I thought, I can do that. I can do that, but thank you. God bless you. I was so thrilled to be sitting there with them and them telling me they wanted me to be part of my grandchild's life. But at the same time, how horrible that my son didn't feel like he was included in that. That he didn't feel, I never made him feel loved. My kids thought that every alcoholic and every addict in AA was more important to me than they were. And I've been taught ever since I got sober, that we're here to help God's kids. And we do. And that is our function. We are supposed to help God's kids. But I forgot my kids were God's kids too. And I was just so grateful that they even wanted to speak to me. And I walked on eggshells for months, and they did. They let me be part of their lives, and it was baby steps, and we finally developed this friendship. And again, it's not the relationship that we had before. It's brand new, and I like this relationship better. We rely on each other. We're part of each other's lives. A couple of weeks ago, I had this god-awful stomach virus, right? And I was puking, and I just couldn't keep anything down. And I called my son, and he came over with ginger ale and an ice cube tray, and he made me ginger ale ice cubes that I could suck on so that I wouldn't dehydrate. I mean, what a good son. He's so good to his wife. I really can't take credit for that. He's an amazing husband. They have 2 children, and the third is due like any minute. She's literally, I've been staring at my phone all day, and I don't want you to think that I'm rude and I'm not listening to the speakers. I am, but she is 10 days past her due date. Right? And I'm like, when is he coming? So they're going to induce her on Monday if she's not, if she hasn't delivered by then. But so I keep looking at my phone like, is the baby here yet? But not only am I a part of those kids' lives, they drop them off. They trust me so much that the kids come over and they spend weekends, Go visit Gigi for the weekend. We need, grown-up time. And they do that, and the kids love me and trust me, and they've never seen that horrible side of me, thank God, because of this beautiful amends process. They do the weirdest things, too. Like, they invite me on vacations with them. Who takes the mother-in-law on vacation with them, And maybe they just want a babysitter to watch the kids. I don't care, They called me up one day last fall, and it was one of those really beautiful, warm October days, and they said, call in sick. We're going to the zoo. And they brought me to the zoo with the kids just because they want me there. I've got the most amazing relationship with these kids. And I don't deserve to have them in my life. I really don't. But because of God and all of you, and this beautiful program, I just don't deserve any of this, but I'm so grateful God thinks I do. I absolutely love this program, and I know everybody says that when they come up here, and but life beyond my wildest dreams just isn't even a thing. It's not even a concept. I mean, I have a life that I just don't deserve, that I didn't think I'd ever have, and I love every minute of it. I'm living today. I'm working on the bucket list. I'm traveling. I'm jumping out of airplanes. I mean, I zip lining in Alaska. I'm doing fun stuff. I'm not just like sitting around waiting for life to happen to me. I'm living my life. I love what this program has done for me. I don't want people to think, though, that, just because we get sober and we're living a life of recovery, that life doesn't happen. Life shows up. Shit happens. I've lost a lot of people in recovery. I buried both of my parents, and I buried my stepson. He was one of us, and he relapsed, and that was really brutal. I want to talk about my father, though. I didn't really talk about my dad. My dad was my hero. He was my mentor. He was my best friend. Everything good about me came from him. All I ever wanted to be my whole life was that man. And he had a terminal illness. He had pulmonary fibrosis, and he couldn't breathe. It's kind of like cystic fibrosis. Your lungs fill up. And we knew he was dying. We knew he was terminal. And I went up to see him the last time, and I knew that he was going to be dying soon. And I had to leave. I had to go home. And I'm pacing in what used to be my old bedroom, right, in their house. And I'm pacing back and forth, and I'm trying to figure out what to say to him because I knew it was going to be the last time I was going to see him. What do you say to somebody that instrumental in your life when you know you're not going to see them again? And I was in there like 10 minutes, and the kids are like, Mom, really? We got to go, And I was like, no, I can't. And I'm just pacing. I called my sponsor. I don't know what to say. And my sponsor was like, whatever comes from your heart. And there was I did not know what to say. I'm praying. And that was when it hit me. There was nothing left to say. Because of this beautiful program and this amends process, he knew how much I loved him. And I knew how very much he loved me. And there was no need to say anything. It had all been said. And I was able to say, bye, Dad, I'll see you soon. And he was like, yeah, I'll see you on the other side. And it was good. I walked around that funeral, and I'm watching my brother and sister. And I realized how very blessed we are. Because we take care of stuff. And we don't leave things unsaid. And my brother and sister were just losing their shit at this funeral. And it just showed me how much was lacking from their relationship with our father. Or they would have known he's okay. He's in a good place, Don't feel bad about him. He's happy, It was okay to let him go because I know I'm going to see him again. I look at death differently today. After losing my stepson, that was brutal. He relapsed over a girl. Jeez. And that was really hard. I'm not going to say it wasn't. But I've come to look at death differently. It's not an ending. It's just a doorway to whatever God's got for us on the other side. We miss him, and that's why we hurt. But, I'm happy for him. He's up there smoking a bowl with Jesus. He's having a good time. I'm not upset about it at all. I know I'm going to see him again, I wouldn't have the relationships I have today. I wouldn't be in the place today or have the life that I have today if it weren't for you guys. And I know what you're thinking. It's not you, it's God. And it absolutely, all my gifts, all my blessings come from God. They do. But see, I'm still crazy. Crazy comes back quickly. And I have a hard time hearing his voice. And that's why I stay heavily rooted in this program. Because he talks to me through you. God is in all of you. And you guys have given me this wonderful gift. I'm never leaving this program. I think I'm about 10 minutes short, but God just told me to shut up, so I'm going to sit down. Thank you.